Looking for magic cards? At flipsidegaming.com you can now use the promo code LVD to get a 10% discount on orders over $10 while supporting the channel at the same time. Hello and welcome to another episode of Friendly Friday, a weekly series where we take a look at budget-friendly standard or modern decks, and this week we're taking a look at Monoblack zombies in standard. So let's dive right into it here, starting out with our 1-drops, where we have 4 copies of a Diregraf Ghoul, 1 mana for a 2/2 creature that enters the battlefield tapped, so nice early beatdown creature. Then we have 4 copies of a Dread Wanderer, 1 mana for a 2/1 that also enters battlefield tapped, and for 2 and a black we can return the Wanderer from our graveyard to the battlefield, but we can only do that if we have 1 or fewer cards in hand, so nice recursive creature to keep beating down with. Then we have a cheap removal spell in 2 copies of Fatal Push to deal with smaller creatures. Then we get to our 2-drops, where we have 4 copies of Scrapheap Scrounger, the only non-zombie creature in the deck, but it still synergizes nicely in our deck as a recursive creature that can keep coming back from the graveyard, and of course a 2 mana 3/2 that can attack is pretty powerful even if it can't block. Then we have 2 copies of Cast Down as another cheap removal spell to deal with non-legendary creatures at instant speed. Then we have 4 copies of Graveyard Marshal, another exciting addition from M19, double black for a 3/2 zombie, and for 2 and a black we can exile a creature card from our graveyard to make a 2/2 black zombie creature token, so can kind of make use of all the zombies that die or get milled into our graveyard by Liliana to help us make even more zombies for our zombie army. Moving on to our 3-drops, we have 2 copies of Never to Return, which can destroy a creature or planeswalker, and then the Aftermath on return, which we can cast from our graveyard, can exile a card from a graveyard and make a 2/2 zombie token. This also works nicely in our deck, and if we happen to mill Never to Return with one of our Lilianas into our graveyard, then we still get to cast the Aftermath on return, which is nice. Next up we have 4 copies of our first Zombie Lord, 3 mana for a 2/3 that gives other zombies we control +1/+1, and for 1 and a black and tapping the Lord, we get to give all zombies we control menace until end of turn, which means they can only be blocked by 2 or more creatures, so an annoying Chain Whirler on defense is not going to be enough to stop our zombie force. Then we also have 2 copies of Death Baron, 3 mana 2/2, giving other zombies and skeletons we control +1/+1, and Death Touch, which is also a powerful effect. Then we get to our Planeswalkers, where we have 2 copies of Liliana, Untouched by Death, a new addition from M19, so pretty strange Planeswalker that's kind of a build-around for a zombie deck, so fits perfectly into our deck. The +1 ability lets us put the top 3 cards from our library into our graveyard, and if we had revealed at least 1 zombie, then the opponent loses 2 life and we gain 2 life, so this helps us fuel our graveyard, maybe mill over a Scrapheap Scrounger, a Dread Wanderer, or a Never to Return, which are all nice hits, and also fuels our Graveyard Marshal. And then the -2 ability gives target creature -X/-X, where X is the number of zombies we control, so can get rid of problematic creatures, can even kill something like a Hazoret, which is otherwise indestructible. And then the -3 ability lets us cast the zombie cards from our graveyard this turn, which is very powerful since we can quickly re-establish a board presence after a sweeper effect, or just cast a powerful Lord and a 1-drop out of the graveyard, for example. Next up we have our powerful 5-drops, where we have another Liliana, Liliana Death's Majesty, 5 mana for a 5 loyalty planeswalker. Her +1 mode makes a 2/2 zombie token and also puts the top 2 cards of our library into our graveyard, which of course is very relevant in our deck with all the graveyard recursion. Then the -3 can return a creature card from our graveyard to the battlefield, also makes it into a zombie, and then the -7 destroys all non-zombie creatures, which in our deck is a one-sided Wrath effect, which is very powerful. And last but not least, we have 4 copies of Liliana's Mastery, a 5 mana enchantment that gives zombies we control +1/+1, and when the Mastery enters the battlefield, we get to make 2 2/2 zombie creature tokens, which of course will be 3/3 zombies thanks to the Mastery. So a great way to make a whole bunch of zombies while also providing a powerful Anthem effect for the deck. And because we want to reliably get to 5 mana on turn 5 for Liliana's Mastery, we're playing a total of 25 lands, including 20 basic swamps, 4 Ifnir Deadlands, which we can also use to put 2 -1/-1 counters on a creature from the opponent, which is a nice mana sink, as well as a 1-of Scavenger Grounds, which also goes well with the Ifnir Deadlands, and we can also use it as a reset button for the graveyards in case we're up against a graveyard combo deck. So that's the main deck. Now let's go over to the sideboard, where we have 3 copies of Duress against combo and control decks, another 1-of Cast Down to deal with large problematic creatures, as well as a Walk the Plank in case those problematic creatures are legendary and Cast Down can't deal with them. We also have a 1-of Arguel's Bloodfast against control decks, where our life total doesn't really matter and we can draw a lot of extra cards with it. A 1-of Sorcerous Spyglass to deal with various problematic planeswalkers or activated abilities. We have one Doomfall that we can bring in against control decks as both a discard effect, but also as a way to deal with potential sideboarded creatures. 2 copies of Plague Mare against go-white token decks. 2 copies of Hour of Glory to deal with problematic gods or recursive creatures. 2 copies of Gonti, Lord of Luxury, which is also nice against control decks and other mid-range creature decks. And a 1 of Eldest Reborn, which is also a nice value card, being able to deal with creatures or planeswalkers, and then also getting something back from the graveyard. So that's the deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Alright, we're on the draw, and this hand looks okay. A bit heavy on the 5 drops, but if we do get to them, they're gonna be very powerful, so don't mind keeping this. Turn 1 Dread Wanderer, turn 2 Graveyard Marshal. Hope to pick up some more lands or something to do in between. As we see, turn 1 Forsaken Sanctuary, so black-white deck. And we did draw a land for the turn. So turn 5 Liliana or Liliana's Mastery, looking pretty realistic. And there we see a Sacred Cat, pretty decent blocker against our Dread Wanderer, and a Legion's Landing. Alright, so it's some sort of token life gain deck. We could definitely consider attacking with the Dread Wanderer, or we could keep it on defense until we draw into some more Anthem effects. I think I like attacking. Opponent just takes it, and we'll play the Marshal. So one of our better draws here would be one of our 3-mana Lords. As we see Ajani's Pridemate, alright, so the lifelink theme starts making sense. But no attacks from the 1/1s, and a Diregraf Ghoul to draw. We could attack with the Dread Wanderer, but then we also grow the Ajani's Pridemate. So I think we just play Diregraf Ghoul and say go. Alright, 3 mana for an Aerial Responder. It's also going to help them grow the Pridemate, and is also a way for them to attack our Liliana. A removal spell would be a good draw. Alright, instead of Scrapheap Scrounger. Yeah, can't really afford to attack here. So we'll just play Scrapheap, say go. And the next turn we get to drop one of our 5-mana Plays, which are going to be pretty good, but still in a bit of a precarious spots because of the Responder, I think. Opponent's going to flip their Legion's Landing. We can just eat up their 1/1s here, which is probably fine. Don't really expect any combo tricks. Opponent does have a giant Ajani's Pridemate, but we don't really care since we can keep producing zombies with Liliana. And at some point we'll find a removal spell for the Pridemate or the Responder. Alright, so I think we just Liliana, make a zombie, and force the Aerial Responder to start attacking Liliana, and hope to draw into a removal spell at some point. As we see, Never to Return and Cast Down go to the graveyard. Eesh, those are definitely cards we wanted to draw. Well, at least we have a return which we can cast from the graveyard now. An Ixalan's Binding for Liliana. It's a good one. But luckily we only have 1 copy in our deck, unlike the Mastery. And another Pridemate. Alright. So the Responder's gonna keep getting in there, and we'll have 2 pretty big Pridemates to deal with. Definitely bringing in all the spot removal spells out of the sideboard for this matchup. Alright, a Lord could do some work, giving our creatures menace. Is that better than playing the Mastery here? I guess so. And if we draw a land next turn, we can play Mastery plus activate the Lord. At least we're making it difficult for the opponent to attack with their Pridemates. Alright, the 6/6 is getting in there. Don't know if that means they have an instant speed removal spell, but we can pretty safely block with like 3 zombies on the Pridemate. I guess they could also have removal for the Lord, but I think blocking like this is still going to work out. So either they have removal for the Lord, in which case we're fine since these still trade, or they have a removal spell for one of these, but then we still kill the Pridemate, and then we have food for the Graveyard Marshal. So I think this is fine. Alright, so 2 of our zombies go to the graveyard, but we got rid of a Pridemate. And end of turn we can activate Marshal, exiling the Ghoul, making a zombie. Alright, find another Ghoul, so we can Mastery plus Ghoul. Do we get to make any attacks is a question. I think we wait until next turn, and then next turn we can give our zombies menace and deal a pretty big chunk of damage. Opponent's gonna activate Adanto. Play Mastery. So yeah, we could technically attack with our 4/4s, but the opponent also has the option of blocking with their lifelinkers, growing the Pridemate. Is that something we're interested in? I guess so. And we can also attack with a Marshal. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. So we can attack with our zombie tokens, the Marshal, and Scrapheap just dies to Pridemate, so maybe that's not a great attack. So I could see attacking with these. And I'm fine trading for Pridemate. And a Seal Away gets rid of our Marshal. That's still fine. It's not like we had a ton of food in the graveyard. And our opponent is indeed chum blocking to grow their own Pridemate. Alright, so our opponent is at 28 life in the meantime as well. So it's going to be difficult to kind of race them here if we don't draw well. Ooh, Resplendent Angel. But they can only gain a couple life here, so it's mainly the ability next turn that's going to be good, since they do have enough mana to activate the Angel's ability. And yeah, that's going to start making 4/4 Angels, which is an issue. So yeah, definitely need to find a removal spell here, otherwise we're going to be in trouble. Another Mastery. I mean, as far as non-removal spell draws, this is a pretty good one. Don't know if it's good enough. So we've got a bunch of 5/5s, they still die to the Pridemate, but it's probably still worth it to send everyone in there. And I'm fine attacking with the Scrapheap now. We'll let the opponent figure it out. Alright, opponent takes 14 essentially, down to 13. But they do now have a very big Pridemate, as well as the Angel that's gonna attack for 6 points of lifelink. And a Responder. At least if they use the Angel, they won't be able to do anything else unless they drew a Fatal Push. Ooh, Murder on the Lord means we won't be able to give our zombies menace next turn. So it looks like our opponent's going for a Adanto activation instead. Alright, fair enough. And then we'll see. Alright, just the Responder getting in there, so our opponent's definitely playing defense here, scared of an Alpha Strike. So they probably did the math, figured out they would die if they went with the other play. And a Graveyard Marshal to draw. They can gain 3 life, so they're at a virtual 18. But we have 7 attackers. Let's say our opponent blocks 4 of our zombies. Then 11 damage goes through. But we're not that on the way back necessarily, since we get to play the Marshal, make more zombies. So I think I'm fine attacking with everyone here. And our opponent will have to throw their Responder or their Angel under the bus here. Looks like the Responder's gonna go. So right now the opponent's taking 16 and gaining 3. I'm not sure about the Angel block as opposed to the Pridemate block, but we'll see. So our opponent falls to 2. They've got a big Pridemate. I guess they were trying to set up for lethal, but the Graveyard Marshal is gonna prevent that from happening. And we also had the Never to Return still available. So I think we pass the turn and then keep up instant speed Graveyard Marshal activation. Jani attacks. We'll activate the Marshal. Getting rid of a Ghoul. And now we'll attack with everyone, not gonna play around, settle the wreckage, and our opponent scoops it up. Alright, so the last turn I thought the token from the Marshal would come into play untapped, so we probably should have just cast a return anyway there to make it to the zombie, which comes into play untapped, and that way would have been safe from a single spot removal spell from the opponent. Anyway, let's go to sideboarding, where Plague Mare is interesting. It does get rid of a bunch of 1/1s potentially, but it's pretty narrow. I do like Gonti since it blocks Pridemate pretty well, and then I want to cast down and walk the plank to deal with annoying flyers, and could also make a case for Hour of Glory. I don't think we want Eldest Reborn against a bunch of tokens, and the rest Doomfall seem bad. And I could see shaving one Liliana, cutting that's Majesty. If your opponent has a bunch of flyers, then Planeswalkers is not where I want to be, and then cut the scrap heaps, which don't block. I think this makes sense. Yeah, let's try this. Alright, so this is a pretty land-heavy draw, but we do have Marshal into Death Baron, which is quite good, and Deadlands as a mana sink, so this is definitely borderline. I think I mulligan just to look for more removal, and alright, I guess we'll keep this. And do we want to keep a land on top? I guess we do, just to help us cast the Mastery on time. But yeah, we would like to draw some removal here. Alright, turn to Gifted Aetherborn. So that's what the black is for. We'll play Marshal. Aerial Responder. So do we trade Marshal for Aetherborn? I think I do. Alright. Can stop drawing lands now. Janice Pridemates. Take 2 down to 18. Another Marshal is a good draw. Second Responder is going to be an issue. Alright, so we picked up Hour of Glory, which is an answer to the Responders or the Pridemates. I think we still play the Mastery first. And the next turn we can make some attacks and have Hour of Glory at the ready. Do we attack with the Graveyard Marshal is a question. Could definitely consider it, since I'm happy trading it for the Pridemates. And while we do have a zombie in the graveyard, next turn we're going to use our mana on Hour of Glory. So it's going to take a while before we get to activate the Marshal anyway. So sure. Send in the Marshal. And our opponent just takes it. Alright. Seal away for the Marshal. Responders get in there. Pridemate gets very big. Another Lord. So I feel like we just want to Hour of Glory the Pridemates, attack with everyone, or maybe just the 2 zombies. I guess we could also activate the Lord of the Accursed. Makes sense. And I think we do activate the Lord here. They could have Seal Away to target our Lord, but then our zombies still have Menace. So that's gonna work out fine. And yep, there's another Seal Away. Let's see if they go for the Lord. They do. But they still take 6. Or they can double block 1 zombie. I think we're still behind, but not by much. We're 1 mana short of using Deadlands and playing the Lord, but I think we still have to just use the Deadlands here. And then next turn we can do the same, and that's gonna deal with the Responders nicely. And I think I'm fine attacking. Would be bad if our opponent has a disenchant for the Mastery, but that's a pretty narrow card to bring in against zombies. Alright, opponent's going for double blocks. We'll kill the Responder. Alright, I'm surprised our opponent decided to trade, but I guess they saw the second Ifnir Deadlands, so they probably didn't think the Responder would do much else. And end of turn Seal Away for the zombie. Alright, so we're pretty much even here. Opponent has a Sacred Cat versus our Mastery and Lord in hand. But our opponent is ahead on life, 27 versus 7. So that's the major difference. Ooh, and a second Mastery is probably our best draw. 4/4 zombies now. Next turn 5/5 thanks to the Lord. Alright, another Responder. But we have the Deadlands. Okay, this is not very reasonable, but I'll take it. Opponent chumps. Down to 23. They'll go up to 25, and we will be presenting 24 damage with the Lord. We're 1 mana short of Lord plus activate Deadlands, but I think we're still playing the Lord here. Add more damage to the board. And I don't think we're playing around to settle the wreckage here. And our opponent scoops it up. Awesome, so managed to beat black-white life gain. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play. And this hand seems quite good. Turn 1 Ghoul, turn 2 Marshal. Got a Fatal Push and a Liliana's Mastery, which is our best card. Alright, turn 1 Mountain into Skirk Prospector. Alright, so it's a different take on the red deck. Not exactly sure what the Prospector means. Could be some sort of Godfarer's Gift deck, could be a Goblins deck. Definitely just attacking and playing a Marshal here. Alright, turn to Wily Goblins, so this does look like the Goblin Gift deck. Alright, cast down's a decent pickup, so I like attacking with both, and then using Fatal Push or cast down, probably Fatal Push if they try and double block. They don't. Play the Swamps, they go. And the Scavenger Grounds, we kind of want to keep as a secret in case they are a Godfarer's Gift strategy, since exiling their graveyard is going to be very relevant. And now they also played Field of Runes, so happy we didn't play out the Scavenger Grounds there. Alright, there's Goblin Chain Whirler. That's fine. Doesn't kill anything. And we can kill it with our own cast down. The 1/1s get in there. Don't think we need to fail push anything. So end of turn we'll cast down. So we can keep attacking. And our opponent lightning strikes our Marshal, using the Prospector to make red mana for the Chain Whirler, so that's a nice play. Yeah, that'll work. Still don't think we fail push anything. Alright, let's attack for 2. Play Swamp. And next turn we have the Mastery. I guess we could consider pushing the Prospector. Prevent something like Siege Gang Commander from happening. Feel like we can get better value out of it. Alright, Goblin War Chief. So taking 4 is probably okay. And then we get to Mastery over Marshal. Even though Marshal is also pretty good here since we get to activate right away. Attack for 3. And our 3/3 zombies line up pretty well against the opponent's attackers. Double Field of Ruin, that's definitely suspect in a Goblin Chain Whirler deck. So our opponent's clearly a Goblins deck, as we see here from all these instigators, and they're doing a pretty good job of going wide. Let's see if we can weather the storm of Goblins. Alright, no attacks. And this Fatal Push is looking good. I think we attack with 2 of our creatures, the Ghoul and the Zombie token, leaving back Marshal and a Zombie token as blockers. Seems like a good compromise. And if our opponent tries to double block, we have Fatal Push to potentially blow them out. No, opponent just takes it. Let's play Marshal. And we could play Dread Wanderer, keep a push, or we could keep a push and Marshal activation, which I think I like more. And now we just have to dodge some sort of Anthem effect. Right, Field of Ruin on the Scavenger Ground. We'll just make a mana here, which is relevant for the Marshal and Fatal Push, since now we can do both. And they also enabled Revolt for us, so we can actually kill the War Chief. So there's Chain Whirler, yep, let that happen. And then we can use a Marshal, exiling another Marshal, And we could either push the Chain Whirler or we could push the War Chief. I think we just push the Chain Whirler, honestly, so we can let them attack first. And no attacks. And end of turn we'll push Chain Whirler. And our zombies can attack pretty easily. And our opponent scoops it up. Alright, so we're up against mono-red goblins. Plague Mare seems pretty powerful here, dealing with all those tokens. Gonti could also be okay. And I'm not sure how many of these removal spells we want. Scrapheap could be bad if we're on the defensive. So I could see cutting it on the draw. Although on the play it might still be good enough since it attacks pretty well into their tokens. I could also see cutting like one Liliana if we're more on the defensive. And then one more cut. Maybe a Dread Wanderer since it lines up poorly against the 1/1s. Something like this. Can't really keep a one-lander. Right, this is better. It's definitely slow, so we could get aggroed out here. But double mastery can bail us out. And we'll keep the Marshal on top just to have something to play early. Turn 1 Firebrand. Alright. So Plague Mare is looking very good in this matchup. A Wily Goblin. Firebrand gets in. I feel like I'm okay attacking with the Ghoul here, since we have Marshal on defense. And there's Field of Ruin again. 4 mana for Goblin Trashmaster. Alright, so another Lord. Yeah, I think we trade here. The main reason not to block here is that we don't have anything to do with our mana next turn, so if we could trade off Ghoul for one of their 2/2s and make a zombie end of turn, that would be a good exchange. So I think that's reason enough not to block. So we're down to 14. And we pick up another land, so yeah, we'll say go. I guess we could consider attacking with the Marshal, since I'm not going to block with it. Although then that opens up the attack with the Trashmaster as well. So we'll say go. Not attacking is definitely weak to Lightning Strike on Marshal. And not much we can do about it, since if we attack, they just attack us back and we don't want to trade 3 damage for 3 damage. Ooh, Volley Veteran. That's even better than just a removal spell. Definitely one of the payoffs for the Goblin deck, so yeah. We might have gotten in for 3 damage here, but then they would have probably killed the Ghoul and smashed us for 7, so yeah, this one's looking bad. We needed a removal spell here for the Trashmaster. Definitely blocking though. I mean, we could still survive if we draw removal into double mastery. Does a pretty good job of stabilizing, but we'll need removal right now. And Ifnir Deadlands doesn't do it. And yeah, we're taking lethal here. Not sure what the opponents will consider playing around. And nothing is the answer. So after seeing how that game went, do we want to make any changes? I think Hour of Glory has more merit now than I thought, since they do have quite a few key goblins we want to take out. I think Gonti's still okay. Plague Mare still looks good. I could see cutting more Dread Wanderers. Would like to be on the play. And yeah, the sand looks great. 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, and 3-drop we even have the choice between a one-sided sweeper, if it lines up well, or just a powerful Lord. So this hand could not be any better. Alright, turn 1 shock on the Ghoul, fair enough. Means the Marshal's more likely to survive. We would much rather see our opponent curving out with creatures as opposed to killing ours, since we have the Plague Mare. So next turn we could just consider making a token with the Marshal instead of playing the Lord. Alright, double shock, so that's not the start we wanted to see from the opponent. But we have another Marshal. I think playing Marshal beats playing Lord. The only consideration is a 3rd shock. Would let our opponent use their mana very efficiently here, but it's not super likely to have a 3rd one. Alright, Goblin War Chief. And our opponent does not attack, so they value their War Chief highly. But we also value our Marshal pretty highly. I think I'm fine attacking. And then we want to make zombies over playing Lord. That way we get to make use of the Marshal while we still can. This does open up an attack on the way back since the zombie comes into play tapped, as opposed to playing the Lord, but I think I still like it. Firebrand is fine, into Volley Veteran. Alright, so it's gonna kill our Marshal. We can exile the Ghoul in response. Make it 2-2. Yeah, best case scenario here, our opponent would have played Siege Gang Commander and we could have Plague Mare them next turn. But we are taking quite a beating here, down to 13. A land would be good here, instead of Dread Wanderer, so we could go double 1-drop, leave back the zombie token, or we could play the Lord, or we could Plague Mare just to get rid of Firebrand, which doesn't seem exciting. I think we play the Lord, just have an extra blocker out, and then stay back 5 mana, and yep, there's a Siege Gang, so happy we waited on the Plague Mare. They can attack us for quite a bit, but instead they're just choosing to send in both of those. So our opponent does have the Firebrand that can also deal 1 damage to something, but I think I'm just fine trading both creatures here, and then forcing the issue on the Firebrand. And we get to untap with Plague Mare. And hope they don't have a second Siege Gang. Right, Goblin Instigator's fine. Into, oof, another Siege Gang, that's rough. I think we just trade for Siege Gang here. And essentially need to top deck another Plague Mare. Fatal Push is not gonna do it, so we get to triple 1-drop and die. Yep. Alright, on to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw, and this hand seems good. Definitely don't mind seeing these extra lands. Alright, some sort of Sultai deck. Alright, Scrapheap is a nice draw. Let's get in for 2. Servant of the Conduit and no third land. Ooh, so this cast down on the Servant is pretty tempting, since they seem to be stuck on mana. Don't hate it. And try to press our early advantage here. They did find a third land into Siphoner, which is not great here since they're behind on board. Another Scrapheap is nice, but we'll play a Lord. Attack with both. Might see our opponent trade here. Nope, they take it down to 7. Opponent does get to draw a card from the Siphoner, down to 6. And the second Lord here should be pretty decent. Servants into Siphoner. That's fair. Still just gonna play an Anthem effect and smash with everyone. And that's a nice one. So that's definitely how one of the good curves for the zombie deck looks like. 1-drop, 2-drop, removal spell, Lord, Mastery. It's pretty much ideal. Opponent double blocks Lord, takes 4 down to 2 and is left with nothing. And our opponent scoops it up. Alright, so on to game 2 against Sultai Energy. I think I like Gonti to block potential big green creatures. Cast down's probably okay. Less certain about Walk the Plank. And we could make a case for Hour of Glory since they probably have Scarab God in there. And I don't hate Eldest Reborn, although want to be careful not to have too many 5-drops. Then what don't we like? I could see cutting some number of 1-drops if we're on the draw, since we're less likely to be on the beatdown plan. So we'll cut some ghouls. I could see cutting Liliana on the draw as well, since we don't get to curve out as nicely. Maybe we just got like 2 Lord of the Accursed, since we have a lower density of zombies now that we brought in some non-zombie creatures. Opponent kind of goes after our lords with their removal spells, so not having them seems fine, but I think I like the Death Baron against the big green creature still. So I'll try something like this. And yeah, I like this. Lots of removal spells to keep up, and the Wanderer to pressure them in the meantime. Alright, double Aether Hub, definitely not the mana our opponent wants to start with. Into Servants. Alright. Think I like playing Scrapheap here. And the next turn we can go Dread Wanderer plus cast down whatever creature our opponent played. The only drawback is if that creature's like a Bristling Hydra, then we might have a hard time attacking past it. But I think I like playing Scrapheap here, since the later we play it, the less relevant it's gonna be. Just a tap land from the opponent, so no early Hydra. And opponent says go. I think I just like sending with both, and then playing Dread Wanderer and keep up cast down. Opponent trades. Alright, so even if they do have a Bristling Hydra, we can kill it with the energy trigger on the stack, since they'll have to use 1 green, so 1 energy from Aether Hub to cast it. Instead it's a Deathgorge Scavenger. It's also a nice one. Can exile or Scrapheap, gain them a little bit of life, but I'm fine using cast down on the Scavenger here. Alright, let's attack with both. And we have Arrow of Glory at the ready for a potential Scarab God or Bristling Hydra. Although I guess now that they have double green, we can't kill the Hydra. Instead it's the Siphoner. I think I use my Never to Return on it instead of the Hour of Glory, just in case of a Scarab God. Ooh, Mastery. Might be even better. Opponent could also be keeping up a negate here. This is close. I think I still like killing the Siphoner, not let them get ahead on cards. But the Mastery was definitely tempting here. Would also be more mana efficient. But if they do have some sort of counterspell, I would rather have them counter the Never than the Mastery. Alright, no counterspells. Didn't really expect them to have any, but you never know. And a Contempt on the Wanderer, that's fine. Alright, now we'll Mastery and get in for 3. Alright, so our opponent is facing lethal. We can get rid of 1 blocker, so ideally they just tap out for a Scarab God. Instead it's a Vraska Relic Seeker. Alright. If they just make a zombie, they're dead. But instead they blow up the Mastery, which also makes sense. Alright, so now we're forced to send 2 zombies at Vraska. If they have a Fatal Push, they get to save her, which would be annoying. But I don't think I want to send 3 at Vraska, that seems overkill. And I feel like if they had a Fatal Push, they would have used it by now. So we'll just send the 2 at Vraska. 1 at our opponents. And then play Dread Wanderer while keeping up Hour of Glory. I guess we could also make a zombie, that's probably better. Get rid of a Scavenger, I guess. I doubt our opponent has any sweeper effects in their mid-range creature deck, but you never know. Alright, Supreme Will, so that's one of the potential counterspells they could have had there earlier in the game, but now they're just desperately digging and they don't find it. Awesome, managed to beat Sultai mid-range. I want to thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed this gameplay, and as always, have a nice day. I also want to thank all my patrons for supporting the channel, and you can do so yourself as well over at patreon.com/LegenVD, where you get cool rewards for supporting the channel, as well as getting us closer to our goals, where with every goal reached, we will release an additional weekly series. So if you want to see more content, Patreon is the place to go.